Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So today let's break down future Ant-Man abilities, his deep dive, and kind of get our first initial impressions of the character. So he definitely does look drastically different than the Ant-Man that we have in the game. He's from like year 2549, something like that. It's completely different character, and his main shtick is nano ants. But obviously, that's just kind of like a bit of a side story there. What we must take a look at are his abilities and whether he's any good. And so far, he definitely has piqued my interest. And I think I would kind of want to compare him with Penny Parker in a sense. Instead of auto block, there's going to be a ton of glancing all the time. So he could potentially be quite frustrating to deal with on defense as well. And offensively, he functions quite similarly, where his basic hits deal very little to nothing, really, and then he has his ramp-up, which is kind of very similar to Penny, where you need to drop a 1 level 1 or 2 level 1s and then a level 2 to do a burst of damage. So he really does bring a lot of similarities from Penny Parker, in my personal opinion, but obviously the ways how he achieves everything that he does are different. So the first thing is he has new abilities, namely disintegration and power detonation. And the way it works is that it starts as a paused passive, and as you strike the opponent, it actually activates, and then once that passive expires, you get this disintegration debuff, unless opponent activates a special attack, in which case they just take a detonation damage, which is something that we will need to take a look out for, obviously fighting against this Ant-Man as well. But the entire point is it works as a damage over time effect that also reduces combat power rate. And that combat power rate manipulation could potentially be very potent, because you can stack this up to like 3 or 4 times total. You can get 2 from level 1s, and then you can get additional ones from this ability here, where you can reduce opponent's combat power rate by like 45%, which would let you be noticeably much more aggressive in a fight. And that is something that is noteworthy for sure. And with that, we can also observe the fact that he has glancing abilities. He has like 10% chance to glance incoming attacks on his base, plus additional 6% for each of his special nano armor buffs. They do count as regular armor buffs as well, but the point is that he can get 5 of those permanent, then up to 10 total. So he can have a very significant chance to glance incoming attacks. And also, once you do get rid of them, then they get turned into passives as well. And you will definitely need to find a way how to deal with this, or that fight will be an absolute nightmare, typically. And as I said, with his rotation, it's basically making sure that his power detonation transfers into the disintegration, then dropping a couple of level 1s that also have some power drain abilities, and then going for like a massive level 2. That's kind of like a very oversimplified version there. You can get rid of these power detonation debuff by activating a special attack, as I mentioned before. And the damage over time numbers aren't the greatest. I assume they're not necessarily the main point, because the main point would be the burst damage from his level 2 as is. He also will be able to gain his armor ups quicker by intercepting opponents or punishing their heavy attacks, and that will let him kind of cycle through his power detonation passives and disintegration debuffs quicker, which is going to obviously speed up the fight and make him more effective. As we can see here on intercept, he can gain some. On punishing heavy attacks, he can gain some of those quicker as well. And he kind of doesn't care about armor breaks in a traditional sense as well, because once he does get his active buffs armor broken, they get turned into passives. Those cannot get removed by armor breaks, and then obviously you're going to be glancing a ton and getting more new of these armor up buffs. So this is going to be quite interesting to see his defensive potential for sure. One cool thing that he has is by finishing a combo with a light attack, you can disable your current highest special attack and basically result in a situation like this, where you have nearly 3 bars of power, but you're still able to throw a level 1. This is something personally I love to see. It's a mechanic I think we should have long had in the game already, and I'm happy that they are adding it. I would like to see it on more characters as well, where you can have a choice on which special attack you do want to engage in and do not necessarily have to use whichever special attack you're at the moment. So I would love to see more of this ability in different variations on more champions coming to the game in future. Absolutely 100%. And as I said, his base rotation is to get a couple of these disintegration debuffs active on the opponent, which you can do it by that base ability that we looked at the beginning, or with your level 1s, those inflict that as well. And then go for like a massive level 2 nuke where you can do quite sizable amounts of damage there. He definitely does have quite a big amount of burst damage on those level 2 there for sure. And that's kind of like his biggest main appeal, I would say. I'm just trying to see if I got some screenshots of the big number damage. I didn't seem to have grabbed that, but it did look like he can drop a massive level 2. Similar to how Penny Parker can do that as well. So once again, there's quite a lot of similarities with Penny Parker in my own head at the very least, where both of them could be potential defensive nightmares, or Penny was auto block. Him, it would be glancing, and then offensively, both again have to drop a couple of level 1s, then get level 2 to kind of get the job done, get that big burst of damage. Seemingly the base damage didn't seem too great, but again, whether he will be kind of like effective or potent enough, that will definitely remain to be seen. When it comes to his signature ability, it gives him basically a pseudo immunity to incinerate and bleed, I believe, where he reduces the duration of those effects by up to 90%. And he also, what was the other ability? He basically got like a major, massive safeguard mechanic. That safeguard mechanic will also potentially serve as a defensive annoyance. And the way that works is when he would lose more than 10% of his max health in a single hit, it basically gets capped at 10% and he gains a regeneration buff, regening back 5%. If you have like max recovery and the rest of those masteries, then regening back like 6 or 7%. So in certain situations, you can definitely spam and abuse that as well. And defensively, there will be specific champions who will struggle because of that ability in some conditions as well, for sure. So that's his kit. No immunities directly, as far as I can tell, at the very least. He doesn't appear to be a robot either. So it is kind of weird to see a tech without direct immunities. Again, with Awakened ability, he can get up to the 90% duration reduction of bleed and incinerate debuffs, I believe. So that's something, but no flat out immunity is there. And then when it comes to synergies, they're kind of neat. I don't think there's anything too crazy for any champion. You can give Yellow Jacket physical vulnerability debuffs, but again, they're just 10%. They're not the biggest ones. Wasp, increased shock debuff potency, is absolutely useless synergy because you only shock opponent when you evade, and using Wasp offensively, you don't really do that a lot. For Ant-Man, unsteady debuff duration is nice, neat. And yeah, he can get ability to bypass miss, but again, that is not kind of like 100% uptime there. The Ultron synergy I do like a lot, where Ultron gains plus 30% bleed and degeneration debuff duration, and with that you can stack more of those debuffs up and drop bigger specials and have bigger attack increase. I do think this synergy could be quite major for Ultron. When it comes to Odin, I don't think 50% is enough when it comes to shock resistance for that to be kind of like usable in majority of the series content. And this final one, when the opponent gains a prowess effect, gain a nano armor buff, it seems like something that he should have had in his base kit. He is kind of odd in a sense that there are like no abilities that really correlate to mutant class. If in recent past, most of the tech champions that have been released have been quite directly mutant killers and absolute destruction machines, then I don't think I noticed any abilities at all in Ant-Man Future Kit that actually kind of target mutant champions. So that is quite interesting. As far as benefits to Cable and Bishop, I don't think there's anything too special either. So that is Ant-Man Future there. You can see that that level 2 will be able to do definitely some big amounts of burst damage, considering you trigger that burst like 4 or 5 times. That special 2 would have dealt like what, 300k, 250k damage, which is a major for sure as well. But based on a hit count, you can again notice that it did require some amount of ramp up. And again, as with many of these characters that do have specific set rotations, the key question is, are they quick enough? Are they viable enough for us to want to and make sense to use these champions in day-to-day content? And obviously that is something that remains to be seen. And that is how I feel about the character. I do like him. I think he could be a defensive menace. I do think he could fit in the contest extremely well if he is fast enough, if he is snappy enough, if he can function in the more important game modes. So that remains to be seen, and we obviously need to see more gameplay and have more examples of this guy in action. Let me know what you guys think about this guy, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information